This is Jason Burnfield. I'm going to go through a tutorial lesson on the data analysis spreadsheet for the drift scanning for doing hydrogen line observations of galaxies outside the Milky Way. It's to accompany the templates and the tutorial guide that is posted on the Sarah website. What I'm going to do is actually go through a live demonstration of how to use the spreadsheet so hopefully that will be a good tutorial to help people learn how to actually use the tools. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So what I've decided to use for the example today is I'm going to actually use the first 2 days of observation data from my initial detection of M33 back in the 4th and 5th of April of this year. And actually all 5 days of that data is what is tattooed on my arm, actually. And many thanks to the late, great JJ Montois for his excellent work that inspired me to press on with this project. And just knowing that it was possible was a huge deal. So let's get started here. So I have a copy of the template in my tutorial folder here. So I'm going to open the Hydrogen Line Galaxy Drift Scan Data Analysis template. I'm going to open that. I'm going to go through it, just talk through it just real quick here. So what I have in the template is I have reference profiles from professional sources typed in as data tables, and it allows then the spreadsheet to plot the reference profile at the same time as your data so that you can then compare your data against professional surveys. And there's tabs for different reference profiles for the different galaxies that might be detectable with a small backyard system given enough performance. The first thing that I would suggest you do is once you open the template is go ahead and save it as a different name. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it to my desktop, and I'm going to give it the name M33 April Demo. And let's make sure that this is actually on my desktop and not inside of the folder where the template is. Okay. So now I've saved the template and I've given it a new name. And because we're going to be doing M33, I am going to go ahead and delete all of the other reference profile tabs and only leave the one that I'm interested in. Just makes it simpler and cleaner. So let's do that real quick. We're going to delete all of these other reference profiles. I think this is the last one. And we should now have just M33. Okay. So now in the template, I have a raw data tab. The next tab is a raw data tab. It has the 6th of September, 24. That's just what was used to create the template. And obviously your data is going to have a different date. So I'm going to use 2 days worth of data so that I can show you how to enter your first day and how to add a second day. And then you can just use that same method to add subsequent days if you have multiple days of observation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this tab. In my case, I'm using the data for my first 2 days of observation of M33. So the first day is April the 5th. So it's going to be 4 April 24. And then I'm going to go in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of everything except for that first column, because all of this other stuff is just raw data. I'm going to leave the top row, and I'm going to leave the first column. And now I'm in the cell B2. It's second column over, second cell, second row down. And that's where I'm going to start pasting in my data. So now let's go find our data. What you're going to want to do is, according to your observation plan, there we go. I save my data in a folder called scans, and then there's folders for different observations. So I'm going to scroll down. So in your observation plan, what you will have done is, if you have used my tutorial and followed those directions, you should have a list of file numbers for the date of your observation that correspond to the pre-transit, main transit, and post-transit portions of the observation. When I look at my notebook in my observation plan for April the 5th of 2024, what I find is the pre-transit scan starts with file number 4, and then the main transit is just files 5 and 6, and then the post-transit is file 7. Now, usually you'll have more files than that, but in this case, this particular observation was running slowly, and so I didn't get as many files as I usually do. But that's all right. So I'm going to open file 4, file 5, file 6, and file 7. All right. And then I'm going to minimize that folder. And so now what I have is I have each of those files open in order. And so I'm going to click on the first file, the file 4, which is the pre-transit file. And I'm going to right click in the text file, and I'm going to say select all. And then I'm going to Control C to copy. Then I'm going to minimize that. And I'm making sure that I'm in the spreadsheet in cell B2. And then I'm going to Control V to paste that. Now, when it pastes it, it's going to paste it all into a single column without any delineation. So what we need to do is now make it separate out into columns. So we're going to start at the second cell, because the header doesn't need to be part of this. So we're going to start with the second cell, and then I'm going to Shift Control down arrow to grab all of the contents. And then I'm going to go up to Data, Text to Columns. I'm going to select Fixed Width, Next, Next, Finish, and then it separates them nicely into the 2 columns. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the header information in that very first cell, and I'm going to grab it and move it over to the pre-transit amplitude column. Because from now on, when I do the next set of observations, I'm going to delete the frequency column, because we only need one frequency column, and the rest of the columns will just be the amplitudes. So since there's only one pre-transit data file, then I'm going to move my main transit label over to the next column, because that's where the main transit is going to start. So I've selected the cell where the main transit file is going to get pasted. And now I'm going to go up, I'm going to select these text files. I'm going to close the one that I just did. I'm going to select the next one, which is the first main transit file. I'm going to right click in the file, select all, Control C to copy, minimize that, make sure I'm where I think I am, Control V to paste. And now I'm going to again select the second cell down, do Shift Control down arrow to select all of that data, go to Data, text to columns, fixed width, next, next, finish. And now we're going to, you see how the frequency column is already selected? I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to delete that column. And I'm going to shift cells left. And now I've gotten rid of the frequency column and it moved the amplitude data from the second data file into that next column. And I'm going to repeat this for the second set of data for the main transit. So I'm going to go again, click on these text files, close the one I just finished with, open the next one, right click, select all, Control C to copy, minimize that file, make sure I'm in the next cell over, Control V to paste. I'm going to select the second cell down, Shift Control down arrow, data, text to columns, fixed width, next, next, finish. And again, it's already, the frequency columns are already, the column with the frequencies is already selected. I'm going to right click that, delete, shift cells left. And now I've got my second amplitude column in the main transit section. And in this case, there's only 2 main transit columns. Now I can move my post-transit label over to the next column. And now I only have 1 column left in this set. So I go in, select the text files, close out the one I just finished. And the final file that's left is the post-transit data. So I right click, select all, Control C to copy, minimize. I make sure I'm in the post-transit cell. Control V to paste. I select the second cell down, Shift, Control, down arrow. I selected data, text to columns, fixed width, next, next, finish. Then I right click on that already selected frequency column, hit delete, and shift cells left. And now I'm done. Now the only thing left to do is to select that first cell, A2, the first cell in the velocity column is the VLSR correction for this particular date and for this particular coordinate. If you followed my directions, you would have captured the VLSR value for your observation before you started. Our VLSR is 9.135 positive. So let's write that down in my notebook so that I don't forget it again. So we got 3.5. And then the next one is going to be April 6th. Calculate. And that's 8.673. All right. There we go. All right. So typed in the VLSR correction value. And now we're ready to go to the analysis section. So what we're going to do is in the analysis section, we should have a pre, main, and post transit. And what we've got to do is now we need to take what's in the average parenthesis and grab the pre-transit. In this case, there's only 1. And we just put it in there. Then we go to the main transit and we do the same thing. So we get that. we go in and we grab the main transit and we shift arrow over to get arrow so that we've got basically both columns for the main transit averaged together. And then we hit enter. And now we go to the post transit and we grab the post transit data. And in this case, again, there's only one cell. And then once we have the first row correct, we select all three, we grab the little corner and we drag and copy down. And then should be good to go there. So now we go over to the main versus ref and we look at this and we say, okay, is this pointing at the right place? What we should have is in the numerator, we should have the main, and then that should be divided by the average of the pre and post transit. That's right. That's correct. And then over in the combined column, in this case, we only have one data set right now. It's the 20 log 10 of the average of just one column. But eventually we're going to add more columns. So then you'll have additional columns here. So now what we need to do is we need to look at the manual center frequency setting and the VLSR corrected velocities and see if they match what's in the data sets. So our first velocity bucket is around 153. So let's see what we're seeing here. Oh yeah, we're off. Let's go ahead and adjust this. So let's try, just going to have to do this kind of just going to increment this until we get, okay, so 8's too far. So let's try 70.75. Ooh, we're close. 0.76. Nope. 0.755. There we go. 153, minus 153. So we want to match in. Basically, I just make it match to the first integer or the ones place. And actually it can vary as much as up to 1 or 2 megahertz above or below because of the frequency resolution of the FFTs. So this is good. So we've got everything aligned and properly set up now. So now let's look at the plot and see what we've got. So this is what our raw plot looks like. So here's our combined data. And then we have a smooth version of the combined data. And you can see the blip here that represents the, okay, something's not right. All right, let's see what we've got going on here. Got to make sure this plot is pointing at the right data here. Okay. Okay, I see what I did. I made a sign error. All right, let's go to our analysis. Okay, this is supposed to be positive 153. So we got to change this to, this is way off, 1421.24. There we go. Let's do 0.2. Nope. Okay, 0.27, 0.26, 0.25, 0.23. Okay, 0.29. There we go. So we've got to keep going up. Let's do 3.5. Nope. 3.1. 3. 305. There we go. That's better. All right. Something's wrong if your Milky Way is not at zero. So the Milky Way blip should show up at about 0 kilometers per second. So if it doesn't, something's wrong. Now we want to go in and change the title to be M33 because that's what we're doing. And it should be automatically scaled to the proper thing here, the proper size. Okay. So let's go in and let's add our next data set. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select the raw data tab that we just entered. We're going to hit the plus arrow to add a second tab. We're going to rename that 6 April 24. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back here and we're going to grab the first 3 rows worth of stuff here. We're going to copy that and paste it in. And this will make sense in a minute. So now I'm going to start with that blank B2 cell and I'm going to delete everything and just leave that. Okay. So now again, we're going to go in and we're going to go back and we're going to close out the old data file. I'm going to go back to our data files, and we're going to find the April 6th files, and we're going to find which ones correspond to the pre, main, and post-transit scans again. So in this case, we start with number 8, and then number 9, and number 10 for the 6th of April. And I'm just going to grab the pre-transit ones right now, and then we'll do them in batches. When you have a whole bunch of files, it's easier to do them in batches. So I'm going to open the first one, and I'm going to right click, select all, Control C to copy, make sure I'm in that first cell, Control V. I'm going to select the second cell down, Shift Control down, data, text to columns, fixed width, next, finish. And then, like I did before, I'm going to take that header information and move it over to be above the amplitude column. And then all the remaining amplitude columns will now be without I'll delete all the frequency columns after that. So we only need the first one. I'm moving the main transit and post-transit labels over because now we have more than one pre-transit and post-transit column of data in this set. So I'm going to select the next cell over, and I'm going to go and close out the file I just got to get the second one. Select all, Control C, Control V, select the second cell down, Shift Control down, data, text to columns, fixed width, next, finish. And then I'm going to right click on that frequency column, delete it, shift cell left, and then select the next cell over. Okay. And then I'm going to close that file and get the third and last pre-transit file. Select all, Control C, Control V, select the second cell down, Shift Control down, data, text to columns, fixed width, next, finish, right click that, delete, shift cells left. And now we're done with the pre-transit portion. There's only 3 columns for that. So I'm going to move the main transit label over to the 4th column. And I'm looking at how many data files there are for the main transit. It looks like it goes from 11 through 15. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to move the post-transit label over to the 6th place over. That way I know when I'm done. I'm going to select the cell where I'm going to paste the next data set. I'm going to close out the previous one. Now we got to go in and open all of our pre-transit data files. So we got 11 through 15. So I'm going to open 11, minimize that, 12, minimize that, 13, minimize that, 14, minimize that, and 15, minimize. Okay, and then I'm going to minimize that folder. Now I'm going to grab the first of the main transit files, right click, select all, Control C, Control V, select the second cell down, Shift Control down, data, text to columns, fixed width, next, finish. Right click on that frequency column, delete it, shift cells left. And then we're going to select the next place over, delete that file, and repeat the process. Again, right click, select all, Control C, Control V, select the next one down, Control Shift, Control down, data, text to columns, fixed width, next, finish. Right click on that, delete it, shift cells left. It becomes a rhythm after a while. And obviously, it would be nice to have a JavaScript program that would do this automatically. And that's something I am going to explore with some of our software development people later. We've got some developers who have done some really great stuff, and they could probably automate this process and make it a lot easier. I'm not going to actually go through the details on each one of these. It's the same thing over and over. So I think we've done enough detail. I'm just going to run through it now, but it's the same process until we get all through with pasting all of these files in. And if you find that you mess up, you can always use the back arrow to undo what you just did. So I forgot to do my data text to columns. Got a little bit ahead of myself here. There's almost nothing you can't recover from on this. You just got to keep track of where you are and keep on going. So here we go. Almost through with the main transit data. Right. Now we're going to do the post-transit data. So again, we go close the last file. We go look, and we look at our observation plan, and it looks like files 16, 17, and 18 are our post-transit file. So we'll get those. And now we'll do 16. And it's just the same process we were doing before. Just copying in the data and getting rid of the frequency columns each time. We're on the home stretch. We're almost done here. Then we get to see how our results turned out here. Last one. All right. So now we've got all of our data pasted in. So what we want to do is we want to get our velocity, our VLSR correction. And so that is 8.673. You should have that written down in your observation plan. And then when I copied it over, I only had the first frequency conversion cell copied in. So I got to grab that corner and basically pull that down to copy it through the whole column. So I have all of the velocities, all the frequencies converted to velocities down the whole column. And again, it looks like it's still at the same velocity as the previous one. We haven't drifted enough. Now, sometimes if you have several days worth, you'll drift enough to where you're off by one row or two rows, and you have to actually delete a row to get it to line up. And that's okay. So now we've got our data all pasted in for the second day. Now we're going to go to the analysis tab. And now we've got to create a whole new set of analysis columns. So we're going to grab the first two rows of the previous set of columns. We're going to Control C to copy that, and we're going to paste it in the next place. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to edit the labels to make them index 2. So it's the second set of data. And then we go into the cells and we actually grab the data cells we want. So this time we're going to go to the 6th of April tab. We're going to do pre-transit and we're going to do shift arrow to grab all 3 pre-transit cells, hit enter. And then we're going to do the same thing with main. So we select that, go to the 6th April tab, grab the main transit cell, shift, right arrow, right arrow, right arrow until we get all of the main transit cells. And then we hit enter. And then finally on the post transit, we do the same thing. We go to the 6th April tab. We get the post transit cell, shift, right, right, enter. Now we have all of our data pointing in the right place. So now we select that whole set of cells, we grab the right lower corner, we drag it down to copy it. And now we have our next set of data all pulled in and averaged. Now we have to go over to, okay, so we got to select column F, that blank column that's separating the pre-averages from the main versus reference column. We're going to right click that top part of that column and insert a new column. And then we're going to grab the first 2 cells of the main versus ref 1. We're going to grab that corner, drag it over, and it makes a main versus ref 2. Now we select that first cell and we've got to change the references to where they need to be. So the J3 needs to be L3 because we want main to be in the numerator. And then we want pre and post for 2 to be in the denominator. So now we have main divided by the average of the pre and post. And the order doesn't matter. So we've got that all set. And now we take that cell, we grab the right corner, the lower right corner, drag it down to copy it. And now we got our second set of compiled data. All done. Now we go to the combined column, and now we want to average E and F so that we get both days worth of data combined together. And then we grab the lower left corner, we drag that down, and voila, we have our analysis done. Now let's go to the plot and see what we got. So you see how the noise reduced a little bit because we got 2 days worth of data now. And we can tell we're aligned properly velocity wise because the Milky Way blip is right at 0. That's a good sign that your velocity alignment is correct. Okay. So now we're going to go to the flattened tab and we're going to do some flattening. So the first thing I would do is take all of these coefficients and zero them out. So this column E are coefficients for a correction polynomial that allows us to correct the data. So when I'm looking at the raw data here, it looks like it's basically linear. So I think we can use a linear fit. So we want a line that's basically you can pretty much already see where the M33 profile is. See it here? But we can see the area that we're interested in is between here and there. If we put a line, if we consider this side and this side to be the 0 point, the background, we can put a line at that point. So it looks like it has a positive slope. So let's just take a crack at it. Let's say like we got 1e minus 3. That's way too big. Okay, let's do 1e minus 5. Ah, that's close. I pretty much do this by just trying stuff and seeing what happens. Let's raise it to a 2. That's almost, let's maybe back it off to like 1/8. Maybe 1/7. That's looking better. Now we need to do, so the first order coefficient gives us the slope, and the 0th order gives us the vertical offset. So it looks like our vertical offset is about, I don't know, minus 0.004. Let's try that. Minus 0.004. Nope, went the wrong way. Let's say 0.004. Too far. How about 3, 2? Ooh, we're getting close. Let's say maybe, actually that looks about right for an offset, but it looks like our slope is a little bit shallow. Let's make it a little bit steeper. Let's make it 8. Maybe 9. And now maybe 8.5. This is kind of a judgment call here. And now let's maybe raise this up just a little bit. Mm, Maybe too much. We want it to kind of be at the average, that looks pretty good. Now let's see what our comparison looks like. Okay, now here's where we need to correct this. So this was set up for M33, so we need to go look at our reference profile to see what our horizontal scale settings need to be. So let's go look at our reference profile for a minute. Our reference profile is from like minus 310 to like, let's see, minus 60. So let's say we want to give ourselves a little more space. So maybe like let's go to from minus 350 to minus 50. Actually, let's do minus 400 to 0. How about that? So let's do So minus 400 to 0. So let's format the axis, and we'll go from minus 400 to 0. And we also want to do that on this one. So minus 400 to 0. Ooh, that's looking pretty nice. Now there's a problem, right? So this original profile plot was pointing at the M33 reference, or the M31 reference profile, which we deleted. So we need to go into select data and change. We need to edit that. And we need to make this. We need to go in and we need to select the reference profile for M33. So let's do velocity here. So this is the X, and we're going to do control down to get the whole thing. And then here, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to grab the flux column, comma, and then control down. And now we've got the reference profile. Okay. It looks slightly misaligned, but not too bad. Now, one of the things we can do is we can adjust our vertical scale to maximize the scale. So it looks like we need to go up to 0.0016. And that gives us a nice maximized scale. And then this over here, let's maximize it. It looks like it peaks out below 60. So let's make it 0 to 60 here. That's probably good. And there we go. We've got our data plotted. And then we can go to our final plot. And again, we want to select this, and we want to change our horizontal axis to, what did we do on the comparison? We did 400. Okay. So we're going to do minus 400 to 0. And I believe our vertical scale, we had the top was at 0.016. Why is that working? There we go. 0.016. That maximize our scale. And we want to make sure we update our label to say the right thing, right? It's the problem with templates is you can get copy paste errors if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. So here again, our label is incorrect here, right? We've got M31. I think we've got everything pretty well done here. So our final plot and our comparison looks pretty decent, and I'm not sure why there's a frequency off, like why there's a velocity offset. There must be an error somewhere in the way we're doing this, but not sure what the source of that is. But we can definitely see the profile in the data. And actually, maybe we do. Maybe we have it corrected exactly backwards. Let's check this out here. Mm, mm, mm. Which I've got maybe my BLSR is incorrect. Let me look that up. Yep, that is true. Six. It's not. Okay. It looks like that's what we got. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and let me know. You can reach me. I believe my contact information is available through Sarah. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll try to answer them the best I can. And thank you very much.